The election season is underway in India. 5 major states will be going to the polls next month. Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Mizoram, Telangana. Rallies are being held. A series of promises are being made. Political parties are going the extra mile to impress the voters. But this time around, all eyes are on one particular group of voters across the states. One section that has become this season's X factor. Top leaders across party lines are leaving no stone unturned to woo India's women in their race to power. Let's take a closer look at what the political parties across the poll-bound states are promising women specifically. Now, in Madhya Pradesh, the Chief Minister, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, is counting on his Ladli Behna scheme for women to win over the female vote bank. And in 4 months, Chauhan hiked the monthly financial aid for women from rupees 1,000 a month to rupees 1,250 and has now further proposed to hike it to 1,500 rupees. And in August, the Chief Minister also announced a 5% increase in reservation for women in government jobs from 30 to 35%. The BJP-led state government's focus on female voters essentially coming as a response to a similar move by the Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi. Now, in the month of June, under the Nari Saman Nidhi scheme, Gandhi had then announced that if her party was voted to power, eligible women will get a monthly financial aid of 1,500 rupees. Let's now move on now to India's southern state of Telangana. The Congress party there is looking to dethrone the ruling BRS party on top of the 6 electoral promises by the Congress. Is a list of freebies guaranteed for women. Let's take a closer look. Monthly financial assistance of rupees 2,500 for women. Gas cylinders at a subsidized cost of rupees 500 and more importantly, free travel for women in government-run buses throughout the state. And in an effort to outdo the Congress, the ruling BRS party has promised women in Telangana 500 rupees more than their political rivals. So the monthly assistance promised by the BRS is rupees 3,000. Additionally, the ruling party has also pegged the subsidized cylinder's price at 400 rupees, also lesser than what the Congress has promised. But the question is, why now? What has made India's political parties see women voters in a whole new light? Past indicators might have a key role to play here. In the year 2018, the voter turnout for the assembly elections was higher for women in all states except Madhya Pradesh. In fact, Madhya Pradesh saw a turnout of 74% as compared to 75.8% in men. And women in Rajasthan came out in large numbers at 74.7% as compared to 73.8% male voters. And Telangana also witnessed a higher women turnout at 74% as compared to 72.5% men who voted in the 2019 general elections. The overall women's voting percentage was higher than men's by 0.17% across the country. And that's not even all. Many analysts are saying that this change has been a long time coming. But the historic mandate of Women's Reservation Bill on the 23rd of September has once again shifted the spotlight back on women's representation. And as India sets the ball rolling to implement 33% reservation for women leaders in the parliament, it's only natural that political leaders are shifting their focus on recognizing women as a critical vote bank. So while India may have long recognized women's legal right to vote since the country's inception, many of the world's largest democracies today have taken a long, hard journey to grant the women equal rights in the society. And as we discussed the turning point in India's electoral politics, October 23rd also marks the anniversary for women's suffrage movement in the United States, quite interestingly. In the year 1915, on this day, over 25,000 women marched up the Fifth Avenue in New York City to advocate women's suffrage. It was, in fact, the largest parade held in the city for the women's right to vote. The landmark event played a key role in New York State granting voting rights to women 2 years later. And it is this precedent set by New York in 1917 that paved the way for the 19th Amendment in 1920, which, by the way, granted women the right to vote across the United States. And with me on the broadcast is a very special guest to help us better understand all of these developments, Kankshi Agrawal, who is the founder of Netri Foundation. Thanks very much for being here on the broadcast with us. Let me begin by asking you for your assessment of all of these moves that we just discussed and the very fact that political parties have been making these efforts to impress the women voters. And as someone who has so closely been involved when it comes to increasing women's decision-making, what do you make of this?
Thank you so much for having me here today. One of the things that we really need to pay attention to, that the voter developments that we saw when women are coming to the ballot banks far more than before, it is not as recent as it may look like to us. So that is why I would like to take a couple of minutes to take us back into the history, right? So between the first election and around 1962 till about in next 35 years, the gap between men voters and women voters was 16%, which was brought down to 8%. 8.7% precisely in 35 years. However, when we see the last decade, the gap was brought down to 1.8%. And in 2019, the voting patterns were overturned, exactly how you mentioned. Like in 2019, women voted 0.17% more than men. This was long time in the making. Let me give you an example also of the Gujarat elections back in 2007. There are anecdotes that by the time journalists went out on the ground to cover Modi-led BJP campaigning, they were like, oh, half the work is already done because Prime Minister, then CM, had already held close to 126 special meetings with women groups, and he had almost considered women to be his special voters. You see that year after year, that kind of strategies around making women the center of political campaigns has been only going up, and right now we are seeing it in full flare. In 2015, if you all remember, Nitish Kumar's campaign specifically was catering to women when he promised that there will be an alcohol ban. Although it was termed dramatic and draconian, and it seemed like a necessity for him to appeal to his women voters. That also was a data-driven decision, because in 2010, while men were only at 51.1%, women voters were higher for him at 54.4%. He knew that he had to craft a strategy which especially caters to the women, and if they make him win, he will go ahead and fulfill that promise. And that has continued. The fact that women still come out in more numbers in Bihar election is the result of the fact that women have been catered to, have been targeted as a vote bank for a long time now.
Right.
And I usually argue, yes, I'm just finishing my point there, that when women enter into politics as voters, they not only change not only change politics at the level of voting, but also at the level of campaigns, and ultimately at the level of governance and policies.
Yes, that also makes me wonder what the reaction of the women you've been closely working with has been like when it comes to this trend. It's quite interesting.
Yes. So one thing is for sure, that when we think about women as a vote bank, they're not a homogeneous vote bank, right? There is still a very heterogeneous vote bank in the sense that we still have our caste, identity, language, religion, on which we would say Indian politics hinges upon greatly. When women come together, they not only come together as women when they are on the voting ballot, they are also all these other identities. This is one of the reasons when we call intersectionality, which parties largely garb their misogyny under the under the banner of intersectionality. What happened with the women's reservation bill also, and we can speak about that. But at the same time, we need to know that women are still making up their mind that when will their only women identity will start taking over the ballot. Right now, it is still wrapped in a lot of caste, religion, regional politics.
All right, we're leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for being here on the broadcast and helping us better understand the impact of these moves and also the reactions that you have been getting in.
Thank you so much. And leaving with the thought that women are not only happy as voters, they would very much like to be the leaders. And we are continuously seeing that women are not being given more tickets as was promised by the political parties. Year after year, decade after decade, they're not being given that spot. And I think women reservation bill was a necessity to change that pattern.
Absolutely. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.